Hey everyone, welcome to the NFT PFP video series by Avaissance. This is PFP Generation Part 1 of 5. So quick introduction to PFP NFTs. We have a few of the key NFT categories listed here. Just going left to right, you have the art category. This is mostly for art collectors, both traditional and digital alike. You have a lot of generative art. So some examples here are chrome squiggles, checks, you have art blocks, which is one of the biggest ones in the past. These are typically not used for much other than to be for collectors to sit in a gallery, things like that. You have photography PFPs. These are kind of similar to art NFTs. The primary difference is that they're typically not generative. As the name would suggest, it's a picture taken by a real life photographer, minted as an NFT on the blockchain. So oftentimes you'll find these are open edition mints. Sometimes they are a little more limited in quantity, whatever it is. You have the gaming NFTs. These are typically higher supply collections for NFTs that are to be used in games somehow. They can be playable characters, they can be equipables, they could be skins. Some of the examples here are more in the playable character category. You have the imposters here. These were characters that can actually be used in the game. So those are typically higher supply because you need to have enough for however many players you want to have in the game. And finally, you have PFP NFTs. These are a very distinct type of NFT and are probably the category of NFT that is most commonly known outside of the NFT world. The primary purpose of these, as the name would suggest, is to be used as a profile picture. So some of the most commonly recognizable ones here you'll see listed here are the CryptoPunks, Bored Apes, Azuki, CloneX, and so on. So these are typically a shoulder up avatar. We'll talk a little bit about frame of reference and all that later, but this is the category that we'll be focusing on. So here you see PFP NFTs and the power that they have. So you see the numbers in the box here. That's a little out of date, so don't pay too much attention to the exact numbers. But this shows how many unique people are actually using a PFP from any given collection. And so you'll see here that some of the top collections have nearly 6,000 or over 6,000 unique accounts or people using a PFP from that collection as their digital identity, as their profile picture on Twitter. And the reason why this is so powerful is it's an endless loop of marketing when you have thousands of people using art from your collection, using an avatar from your collection as their profile picture. This is the first thing that people see. It's what people associate their brand, their voice, their image with online. And so every time they say something, be it meaningful or not, there is some kind of association built in other people's minds when they see whatever that person says associated with a PFP from your collection. And so naturally, each community will have power users of its own. And if someone builds a big following or starts writing really insightful things, or is just really good at garnering attention, tweeting 100 times a day, whatever it is, that person will maybe inadvertently or not even consciously be marketing your collection just because they've decided to use that as their PFP, as their digital identity. So this will all create a feedback loop to further make your PFP more recognizable to others and hopefully more desirable to others as well.
And so when you look at what makes a good PFP NFT, you have to look at the composition to start, especially with the base. So you ask yourself, is this going to be a genderless collection, commonly found in animals like the apes and the beans, or is it going to be a gendered collection with maybe a more humanoid base avatar? And with gendered collections, you have to think, okay, is the base actually going to change? So if you look at the CryptoPunks example here, you can see the chin on the female below is just a few pixels thinner and sharper than the chin of the male CryptoPunk above, where it's just kind of a flat chin. On the doodles, on the other hand, you see that the base is exactly the same. It's the same round shape, and how you differentiate gender is actually by colors and various traits. For example, this hair only appears on female doodles, while this comb-over hair only appeals on male doodles. So in this case, the base actually doesn't change. And with the genderless collections, you look at the beans and the apes, there really is no difference at all. There is no concept of male or female, so they just have to worry about one base. Traits are all interchangeable, and so on. Typically, humanoid PFPs are a little more complex because there is an objectively correct anatomy that one should follow when drawing humanoids. So you're naturally going to draw a lot more criticism with people saying, oh, so and so doesn't look right. Whereas if you are going with pixel characters or animals or doodles, there's going to be less comparisons to draw to. So just something to keep in mind. You're going to want to think about the hair and clothes. So these are the two traits that probably create the most diversity within a PFP avatar outside of the base. You don't want to have too many accessories, small little traits that don't make them that big of a difference, which will create overcrowding within your PFP, which we'll talk about shortly after. But with hair and clothes alone, these are typically the two categories in which you'll find the most traits across every collection. So in Azuki, you'll see 123 hair traits, 98 clothing traits. In Bored Apes, you'll see 36 hat traits, which is inclusive of hair, 43 clothing traits. Doodles, you'll see 73 hair traits, 55 body or clothes traits. And in Valhalla, you'll see 98 hair traits and 78 clothing traits. So you want to leverage these traits highly because you can see that even with just these two traits, you can create a lot of diversity within the PFP. So in the hair example here, you'll see this Valhalla female and this doodle guy, they both have the same clothing trait. You have the black hoodie and the yellow puffer jacket. But just by changing the hair, you go from the blonde ponytail to this blue hair below, or the green bowl cut to this blue comb over his hair below. You completely change the identity and the aesthetic of that avatar just by changing the hair. So that goes to show you how powerful these two traits can be. So you don't need to overcrowd it with a bunch of piercings, earrings, glasses, headphones, all these type of accessory traits. Just by having a high amount of hair and clothing traits can create a lot of diversity across your collection. Next is background and face. These are traits that can create a lot of diversity across your collection without a lot of incremental work. So background, obviously, you want to have a cohesive set of colors that make up the backgrounds within your collection, but it doesn't take a lot of work to actually create these backgrounds. And the reason that's important is if you're a solo artist founder, or you only have one or two artists on your team, your art capacity is going to be very limited. Once you start marketing, you're going to be rushing to get all the traits right, to get the collection settled and created so that you can launch and mint your collection in time. So anywhere you can save a little bit of art bandwidth to spend polishing other traits, coming up with other new traits, the better. So if you decide you need some amount of traits to create a visually distinct enough collection across whatever your supply is, 2,000, 5,000, or 10,000, a good way to do that is to leverage background and face. So you see these two apes, they're all wearing one of two clothing traits. You have the black tee and you have this striped black and white tee. Besides that, they all look very similar with the exception of the background color and the face traits. So just by changing the eye and the mouth and the background color, these are very small traits, small from the perspective of it. They're not a lot of pixels. So, drawing them isn't nearly as complex as it would be to draw, 100 different hairstyles, for example. So just by leveraging these small traits, you tweak the facial expression a little bit, you tweak the background color, and boom, you have an entirely new, distinct PFP. So next, we'll finally get into the accessories. These you want to use sparingly, so they can be offhands, weapons held in the hand, neck traits, necklaces, facial accessories, bandages, headphones, the bubble gum, and so on. So these can and should exist in your collection, but they should be used to garnish your PFPs to add additional personality, texture, or rarity across the collection. So we'll discuss rarity a little bit later, but if you have too many of these and every single one of your avatars has a bunch of these accessories, it's not going to feel as cohesive, and it's just going to feel a little overcrowded. So you should have these traits, but they should be used a little more sparingly. And finally, we'll talk about overcrowding a little bit. So the reason why you want to use those accessory traits more sparingly is because you have to think of the medium in which your avatar will be used. For the most part, it's going to be in a little circle, as someone's profile picture on Twitter, on Discord. Over half the time, maybe well over half the time, it'll be viewed on a mobile device. So you need to take size into account as well. So if you look at these two examples, this is the CryptoPunk. I think it's the 7 or 8 trait CryptoPunk, and this is a 2 or 3 trait CryptoPunk. And you can immediately see how much busier the one on the right is. And the left is what people will call, clean. It's just, it looks clean. It doesn't have a lot of stuff going on, but it still looks good. Same with the Azuki example over here. The one on the right, very busy, also very epic. It's one of the only Azukis with, maybe the only one with 3 elemental traits, the fire, the lightning, and the earth. Whereas the one on the left here is very simple. It's a guy wearing a tank top, he has a straw in his mouth, and a clean red background. A lot of people actually seek out these clean, simple profile pictures because if it's your digital identity, it's what represents you. Some people like that simplicity, whereas other people like the complexity of saying, hey, I have the only one with 8 traits. I have the only one with all 3 elements. And so there's going to be something for everyone. But the point is, if every single avatar in your collection looks like these busy examples on the right, none of them will look that rare anymore. So, one thing I like to say is grills cannot exist in the absence of commons. This only looks good amongst a lot of other more simple, clean ones in the collection. So a good sanity check is to see, generate a bunch of your PFPs and looking at it in a gallery view. Does it look busy? Does it look overcrowded? So here's an example of the KPR collection on the ETH blockchain. So you can see most of these actually look pretty clean, pretty simple. You have some of them that have the kind of special effects. You have the lightning, you have the purple waves, you have the bats here, but not all of them do. So when you look at it, when you zoom out and you look at the collection in a gallery view, kind of taking a step back, you want it to look, you don't want it to look too crazy. You want it to look clean as a whole, with some accessories and special effects sprinkled in here and there so that people can go and seek out these more rare and busy ones. But, for the most part, the collection as a whole looks cohesive and clean. And so with that, we'll stop here for video part 1 of 5 in this video series, and we'll be back with part 2. Thanks.